Welcome to the Rock and Roll Rowdies. Okay, this is Wilko over here. He's actually over here. Say hi, Wilko.
Hi, this is Wilko. This is Mark Emery, Alan Granny Grange, Mal Craggs. We're the Rock and Roll Rowdies. We're going to start talking today and try to explain to all you people out there what we actually did on tour from 1970 onwards.
We're all brothers together.
Yeah, we haven't grown up. I think,
Yeah.
So I was a tour
What are we
manager,
talking
but I was a
about?
roadie. Is he with us?
What are you talking about?
Anyway, Mark Emery was a sound guy. Still is, with Martin Tanner from the Wishbone Ash. I'm retired. Granny's retired. Mal's retired.
I'm retarded.
That's what I thought I said. But we're not going to explain to you, if we can, how and what we did when we turned up to the venue with the bands we were with from the 70s. And Mark just finished a tour from Europe last week. And I want to start off with Mr. Grange. What would you do when you first turned up at the gig?
Find the booze. Find out where they hid
The rider.
Find the key for the lockup for the booze. No, but seriously, we would. This is before that we had crews. We would find the best way to load in, simplest way. Hopefully,
Always.
no staircases. But usually, you had to go through some kitchen, depending on the venue. But yeah, you'd turn up and see how far you had to hump the gear. And we had got really advanced at one point. I actually got a little dolly. But this dolly had 3 wheels on it, so it would go up staircases. Do you remember that?
Oh,
Remember those?
no.
It had like 3 little wheels, and it would go up.
Technology had come in.
So
Techno.
Yeah, before
Yeah.
that it was just humping and grunting, but we took whatever
Well,
we could
yeah.
get.
Some of the worst gigs were the Meccas. Do you remember the Mecca ballrooms?
Mecca ballrooms.
And they're always up a bunch of
Was it
stairs.
Sunderland
Like a
or
big,
Newcastle? One there.
Always through the kitchen.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Carrying all those WEM columns up the steps.
So that would be the first thing, yeah, get there. Where's the stage? How do we get there?
It's still the
and
same.
organs.
It's still the same. Really, you just get the load into the gig. Where's the helpers? Is my first question these days. Where's the helpers?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where's the crew?
Yeah.
But back then
But-
there weren't any.
There weren't any back in the old days. We used to carry those 4x12s upstairs.
That's how we started, because the musicians said to us, "Can you come and help us carry our gear?"
We were the crew, yeah.
Yeah.
Now the crew has a crew.
I think what happened was when they started using 4x12s, because before they had that AC30s and little amps, and all of a sudden they got
Little
these big,
Wems.
solid like 4x12 cabinets with heavy duty magnets on the speakers. And we're getting a bit heavy these. Why don't we get a couple of idiots to work for cheap? That's where me and Matt.
That's how we got
A
jobs.
couple of young idiots that'll do it for nothing.
Yeah, can you remember? We used to, the band, me and him being the crew,
Yeah.
in a transit van, we used to lay, that's how we travelled, on top of the equipment.
Yeah.
Because that's how we all fitted into one van.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough seats, wasn't enough space
Yeah,
in the van.
I was on a perch, and in between the driver and
make a
passenger.
seat or somewhere where you could lay out.
Yep.
And we actually had a crash one time while we were all in the van like that.
Right. No
A
seatbelts.
scaffold pole came through the fucking headlight and through the fucking dashboard.
From where? Well, it came into the...
Yeah,
Into the cabin, yeah.
Shit. Yeah. Health and safety just didn't
But
exist.
but it was exciting because we would come back after a gig. It was probably a gig in South Shields, and we had some road works, and this fucking scaffolding pole came right through the dashboard and stopped. Look, they didn't skew. I think it was
Jesus
coming right
Christ,
at me.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't skewer anybody.
But it was like a badge of honour. We're driving the truck, and the truck was all battered up now. Yeah, we're a real working band, man. We're a real crew.
What sort of van was that? Was that?
tranny.
It was a transit.
Yeah.
Four-wheel.
Tranny.
Four-wheel.
Apologies to any of you trannies out there. You know, we use the term from old school.
That's right.
Persons of questionable sexuality.
A tranny is a Ford Transit
Right.
van.
Which was
Well,
beloved of all groups back
Well,
in the
because it was the
60s,
first. It was the first van ever designed that was more like a car. Instead of having a sort of one of them sort of things, it
drove like a car.
drove like a car, and then and rock and roll loved that.
Yeah.
And
you could get row seats behind the drivers, and then a
which
space
was
for
quite
the
often a
equipment
few
at the
cabinets
back. Yeah.
laid
Or you
down.
could have a
That was your seats.
Yeah.
But you could get the long wheelbases, and you'd put a row of seats in, usually
Yeah.
aircraft seats.
Yeah.
Aircraft seats.
Yeah.
And then the equipment behind that, and you travelled up and
Luxury.
down.
It's still
Luxury.
it's still the same
Newcastle
now.
one night, Brighton the next, and then back to Sunderland the next. Whoever planned those tours used a dartboard.
Dartboard.
The dartboard tour.
Well, they were just gigs had come up, and
Gigs.
you'd
You've done
have to
gigs.
go and do them.
Yeah, they weren't planned. They were just gigs as they came in.
And there was no-
We went and done them.
Rarely any hotel, and if there was a hotel, I remember staying in Cardiff, I think, and it was basically a doss house, really, multi bedroom sort of thing. Everyone's on like £5 a night or whatever.
Sounds like a knocking shop.
It's awful, absolutely awful. Or more likely, drive home.
Yeah.
Even if you're in Sheffield or something, you get back to London.
Yeah.
The one advantage, see, Wilko comes from Wagga in Hartlepool, so when we got to hotels, Wilko actually got to use an indoor toilet.
Yeah.
So it was a big move up for him.
I was from the bucket to a toilet.
Wow. That's a progression for you.
Yeah.
This is why we joined rock and roll.
Yeah. I had
Quality of life.
Luxuries.
I had to get nursed off the bucket.
Wilko he'd never seen toilet paper before. He was used to using sandpaper.
No, I used the Daily Mirror.
Still got it now.
My dad used to shout, "Don't use the fucking horses!
Right.
Don't wipe your ass on the horses!"
Horses' ass.
Horses. Yep. So yeah, it was everything was a step up. It was a progression, wasn't it?
Yes.
But you'd really made it if you had a 6-wheel tranny. And the legendary Gnedrolog, we had a 6-wheel tranny.
Six-wheeler.
It was pretty big time.
Yeah,
So
we
on-
just had a 4-wheel and it was yellow, which was not the most grooviest colours. I mean,
Pretty brave.
Yeah, they had that powder blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that powder blue tranny. Yeah.
Navy blue is most common, wasn't it? Yeah.
But you, Wilko, had a big, when you were with the Tremolos, you turned up with an American A series,
It was an
American
A150.
truck,
Yeah.
huge bonnet on it.
Yeah.
All right.
But it was
What, in the UK?
Yeah.
yeah. But it was like it was the body of a regular pickup truck with a fucking huge box on the back.
But it looks so different to all the English vehicles.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when the old, three of us at some point worked with Steve Ellis, he had that Mercedes.
Mercedes.
That was pure luxury.
Yeah.
Brand spanking new. Yeah.
Yeah, they put money in that big American car I drove, the American Rambler.
Yeah.
That was a big station wagon. That was the
That's
first.
really groovy for the UK.
Well, that was
isn't it? I mean,
my
you got-
first band I ever worked for, Ellis. Here, drive this car around London. And don't hit anything, Wilkie.
That was the first time I'd seen an automatic transmission.
Yeah.
That's good. Everything else was manual, stick shift. And getting in that thing, just to get used to the fact that you didn't have to do a clutch. When you got to a light, you didn't have to. You could just hold it, and it would hold itself at the light. That was,
Well, that was the American truck, right?
yeah. Well, the car here.
The car.
Oh,
was
right,
automatic.
right.
I'd never driven it. I'd never driven an automatic, and I was like, you just started doing
Because in the
it.
States we sort of progressed up to like a Luton, but it was had a big Chevy V8 in it, and that was automatic.
Ah.
Now they were really cool. Did a few miles in them. But,
Yeah, I let a couple of the Bellevue boys borrow that car, by the way, when I was up north.
We'll send them with an invoice.
Yeah, right.
But
So now we're in the kitchen. Now we get through the kitchen and into the stage area. Now what's the next
I can only
thing we
contain
do?
myself.
What was the next thing we looked for?
power
Power supply.
Power to the people.
Power supply.
power to the
Power
gear.
to the roadie.
And
And 90% of the time it was what?
Well, I didn't need to because I was setting up the
Shite.
drums.
Yeah. It was rubbish.
You're on the drums.
So I said, I don't need electricity. I'm doing
Well,
the
I
drums.
think we've all
Yeah.
done drums at one time.
Yeah.
Steve Upton
Yeah.
and then it comes to the big 6-inch nail story. Then I think isn't it?
My 6-inch nail story was went to Redcar, which is up northeast. And my mum and dad was coming to the gig. I was so happy. And I was with the Average White Band. And the manager of the gig comes in. He's like, "Oh, do you like my new floors?" And of course, we were dragging fucking cases across it. And AWB didn't have wheels on the cases, So I just start hammering a 6-inch nail. And the guy had a kitten. He was like, "What the F are you doing?" I'm going, "Do you want my drummer to go flying down the gig?" Because there was no stage.
So disrespectful.
Yeah, there was no stage. It was just
would
like,
never
there was
do
no
that.
carpets. But, you know, you put it in and you bend the nail over so it holds the bass
Yeah.
drums. You
Well,
know.
The bass drum.
Yeah, well, I used to do the cymbals and everything. Robbie, I was working for Robbie McIntosh, and it was like, Robbie's like, nail a lot down.
Did he have a drum board at that time?
No, not a fucking
Because we moved on to a drum board,
Board, yeah.
where you actually had it laid out, but you're still hammering fucking nails in.
We'd have clips, blocks.
Yeah,
you
that's
would
right.
Fit the cymbal stand.
Yeah.
The legs of the cymbal stand would fit into those blocks.
Yeah,
so you'd have two blocks. And then you'd nail it across.
Yeah.
That's too educational for me.
Yeah.
6-inch nail.
And that was progressing on. We're now talking early 70s
Little
now.
elastic bungee cords to hold them down. You know?
Oh.
No one else required.
High clips. We had metal clips that we used to put over, and I had eye screws into the thing.
Sounds like hard work, mate.
No.
Little
They didn't go
stretchy
anywhere.
cables.
They did not go anywhere. But the trouble was when the drummer, I don't like that cymbal.
That's
You
it,
couldn't
couldn't-
move it. That was fixed, mate.
That's right.
Once
Yeah.
that was in down, locked,
Not
could
going
not
anywhere.
move it. You know.
Yeah. The biggest
But that was
mistake.
the whole thing. That was the bane of drum roadies when the drums moving all the time.
And,
the bass drum would be.
And during the show, you're constantly running on and picking up a cymbal and stuff.
I know. Cymbal would be bouncing away from him.
Yeah, you don't see that anymore,
I
roadies.
had to be.
Yeah, yes.
It was the bane of drum roadies was holding those drums in place back in the early days. You know,
Yeah.
obviously technology and.
Yeah, well, the drum board was like 2 8x4 plies.
Yeah.
With a hinge done them.
And a hinge down the middle, and that was quite a weight as well to carry that. You needed 2 guys generally, but we used to do it. Pretty little muscular guys that we used to
Yeah,
be.
we used
were
to
all
be.
fit and
And we're all
healthy
fat
then.
and-
No, we're all fat and fucked.
Now, by the way, if you can see behind us, these are the T-shirts that Mr. Craggs was wearing, and can you imagine? Look at that.
That used to fit me.
And so
now
this
fits- It now fits my 15-year-old granddaughter. But back then, I weighed 140 pounds, and now I'm about 190.
I remember having a 28-inch
Stone.
waist for years.
Yeah. I was 9 stone and 26, 28-inch waist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About all that good living in between then and now, say.
Yeah, well,
Eating
that's
properly.
Nothing to do with age.
It's just aging,
nothing
isn't
to
it?
do
Nothing
with,
to do with age.
and nothing to do with beer.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing to do with.
But at that age, you could drink as much beer and
you didn't
do it. You didn't put a
just
pound
burned it
on.
all off, didn't put a pound on.
Well, you sweat it off. I mean, getting that gear out after the show, you know.
It was a good workout, really.
Yeah.
It was a workout.
Yeah.
These days, my workout is to avoid it as much as possible. Let somebody else do it.
Yeah, but there
I
was-
did in America. The thing was to get it down. First truck from the curtain coming down, right? So bush, black, right? We had to get it down to under an hour for the first semi truck
To get out of there,
to
yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
To leave.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it was like 2 of us would go in the truck, 2 packers, one calling it from the stage, and
Yeah,
and
just
so
kept that.
one would be outside of the truck. We want the piano case, stage.
Oh, yeah,
left,
well, that's what stage
left
manager does.
guitar, and they would come into the truck that way, and then there would be 2 of us.
Yeah,
in
you
the
got to get
truck.
the gear to the truck in its right order.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the guy on the stage would be doing that.
Yeah.
He would be
Stage
sent
manager.
to
Would he be the stage manager?
You've leapfrogged here.
Yeah, we've leapfrogged.
I know, we're in America.
We've gone from arriving at the gig to leaving.
That's right.
I'm out of there.
I'm
I'm out of there.
I'm going.
That was the best part of the
Yeah,
gig.
yeah.
Leaving.
But yeah, I mean, there was no amount of a gear. Nothing was too much. You'd have a go. If it would fit in the truck, you'd somehow get it in the building. And none of it was too much work. I couldn't imagine now doing it. When I see the odd bit of footage and I see me scurrying around, like hovering in case a fucking cymbal might move, or hovering in case a bloke would drop a fucking plectrum and running on to get it. I couldn't imagine doing it now, but at the time we were into it.
It doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't seem.
people
you
don't
know,
drop picks.
Francis Rossi used to break a string at will.
Right.
And he fucking did it in front of me. And I go, don't do it, Francis, please.
Surely it was just a matter of switching guitars,
And
and
he'd go, yeah.
switch
Just
guitar.
to give you something to do.
Yeah.
What else did Francis Rossi have you do when you when you
How did
auditioned?
you get the job in the first place?
Yeah, right.
Take a break.
I could roll a joint.
Right, there
Believe
you
it or
go.
not, I turned up at Pinewood Film Studios. I think it was about 79, 1979. They were preparing for the Rock and All Over the World tour. Pinewood Film Studios. At the same time, they were filming Superman at those studios, and I did get to meet Lois Lane and Superman.
Lewis
But
Lane.
I turned
I
up.
thought they were
and-
both the same person.
No, she was. Anyway,
I turned up there.
press the subscribe button now, and don't forget to keep tuning in to Rock and Roll Rowdy Stories.
for the end of the tale.
And yeah,
Well, actually, nowadays it
So-
would be. Lois Lane would be a tranny. It could be. Superman.
Shut up.
Are we back to Vans?
So
Transit
let me
vans.
finish- Let me finish my interview.
There you go. He's interviewed.
Wake us up when you're
I've
finished.
never met Francis or any of the Quos before, and I went in there. There we are in the studio in Pinewood Film Studios, and he went, "Oh, my oldest Francis, yeah." He went, "Do you smoke?" And I went, "No." He said, "Well, you don't smoke at all?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you know how to roll a joint?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "Okay then," and he gave me all the makings. He went, "There you go. Go and sit over there and roll me half a dozen joints." So off I went. I thought, "This is fucking great. This is a great job."
yeah, all that technical knowledge you felt back over the years.
I'm shitting a brick thinking, "Oh no, they're going to ask me fucking come do this." And no, I fucking took them back to him, and well, they were, doing their
That's true.
Sounds like an Irish jig.
Yeah.
And he's looked at the joints and he's, yeah, they look all right, yeah. He's lit one up. He went, "Yeah, job's yours."
Got the job.
Is that it? He went, "Yeah, job's yours, mate."
Brilliant. So
Nobody asked me, did I know anything about anything?
no, they don't. All they wanted is someone who can roll a decent joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's not all I did on the tour. That's definitely not all I did. I think he rolled his own. I don't think I ever rolled another joint for him.
Oh right.
But I bet.
But I used to have them at the side of the stage, and he'd go like this. He'd signal to me, and I'd go, "I'd like a joint for him," and I'm thinking, "Oh, what the fuck am I doing?" Here I go again.
Yeah, I've had to do
At the side
that.
of the stage. And then, so I got one of those old car horns with the bell on it, and I fitted it, so I rigged it so you could put the joint in there, and I keep
That way
it
you don't
going
get
by
too high.
All right, without having to toke on it. Right.
without having to talk on it.
Very creative.
That's
man.
really that's roadie thinking.
Yeah. Intuition.
I had this big flight case, great big flight case beside the stage. It was about this high, up, 6 foot at least.
I got it.
And the top drawer was the little wafer thin top drawer, which was a mirror. So you used to dump a load of gear on top, just wipe it over, and Francis would do it and Rick without breaking stride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'd fucking bounce
Brilliant.
across there.
What a way
without
to-
breaking stride.
What a way to rock and roll.
And they acknowledged all this. None of this is like scandal or anything.
No, they done it in their book. Francis very open about all the drugs and stuff they took. All the coke.
But I bet not one of us ever got a job where we had to prove that we could. They would just say, "You can do keyboards." You go, "Yeah," and you would figure it out. There was not like, "Well, let's see your diploma, let's see your credentials."
Oh.
You were willing, you got the gig, and I guess if you couldn't do it, you might get fired. But
Right.
very rarely did that happen. People figured it
They
out.
did though.
But you're all rounder,
Sandy-
weren't you? I mean, as on a crew, you had to basically be able to do everything,
Yeah, you had to switch.
Yeah.
But Sandy drove
Drive,
this guy
cameo.
down to do an interview with Genesis. to become a roadie.
Well, that's the head again. That's getting
No, no,
no.
no. I'm talking back in the day.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day, Sandy was working for the Faces, and I think it was one of their lads from the Faces had been asked him. So she drove him down to Guildford, and the three of them sat there, and they said to him, "So, what degrees do you have?" And he said, "It's not. O levels,
What do we say? Very modern.
A levels."
Well,
And that was their first questions were what qualifications.
ironically, that's the way it is these days. All these youngsters coming out of media college, they learn how to.
Well, this was back.
Yeah, there weren't any media colleges back then.
Yeah, back in the day.
But to expect a roadie,
in the 70s.
they expect a roadie to have a degree in something. Why would he want to be a roadie if you've got a degree in something? I think you could earn more money doing something else, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But,
After the first time I ever heard anything like we had to go on. Well, I did an interview with Gindidrolog, but it was more just the personality.
Who?
Did I mention Gindidrolog?
never heard of a.
That famous.
That's my pet thing. I'm going to make them famous. I was going to say make them famous again, but they
For the first time.
First
Great
time.
little band. No, but I actually went to meet them. I had to borrow clothes off Spike. Can you imagine me?
Wearing Spike's clothes.
Yeah, I didn't have any
Spike
clothes.
was 6
All
foot
my
13,
clothes.
drinking piss.
Yeah, all my clothes would be covered in snot and God knows what. So I had to borrow something clean. But it was more personality.
Why just
Did
watch
you borrow those clothes today?
Yeah, we
He's done the same thing today.
But it
I
was
can't
more-
recognise them. They're out my wardrobe.
I think that was just more like they wanted to meet me because they were quite a touchy-feely little band, and there wasn't nothing. There were no questions about can you tune a guitar? No. Can you set up drums? No.
Do you?
Would have thought you could do it, you see.
No, I could see. You just have a go. But that's the first I've ever heard somebody actually having to have a
What
degree to be a roadie.
Yeah. Do you have
Never
a
heard of
degree in
it.
it?
Never heard of it.
What's your qualification? What qualifications?
So now we've got past,
We've got the power.
we've got the power, right? Now after
Well,
the
you
power.
were nailing drums down.
We've only
but
just got into the
but
gig.
we just got in the gig. I'm the drum roadie, so that's what my job is. So now we've got the power. Who powers up? Who was the back line? Who took care of the front of the house?
Well, that's right. Well, the back line, I mean,
Well, let's
I
explain
saw-
what the back line is.
the back line is the guitar amps, bass amp, the drums.
I wonder
and
what that
the
stuff
keyboards.
was.
And the keyboard.
This is for the
Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning here.
We're learning all the time.
But,
I'm
you know-
getting flashbacks now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the back line was more intensive than because everything was like cross-wired and stuff like that, especially with Wishbone. And the
Yeah.
guitars on both sides.
Right.
Things are a lot simpler these days, and the rigs aren't as big. They're now using,
Single.
An AC30.
Single
back down to
12.
using a single amp.
single toe. Yeah.
You know, status quo. 30 AC30s on stage, all linked.
Nightmare. So that's a big job for the stage crew at one time. But it still is for the big bands as well. They carry even a 3 or 4 piece band like Muse carries like tons of shit just for the stage gear. Sort of. But it's. Anyway, press the subscribe button.
Rock and roll rowdies.
But and then you get all the stuff mic'd up. Now I can't remember when we really started miking stuff up.
Oh, you're leaping ahead again.
Leaping
it was like
ahead.
one mic over the top of the drums, usually,
Virtually,
and maybe a snare drum mic.
And obviously a couple of
Monitor-wise.
couple
Or
of
a big
vocal mics.
monitor.
bass drum. We used to always have a bass drum. right?
bass drum mic and an overhead maybe, and still use that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But monitors were a nightmare because back in those days they were shit.
Yeah.
And you'd have to get them so loud, and then they'd be feeding back all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, they've really refined it now, and you can get some.
Yeah, well, you get all the in-ear
Well,
stuff
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
That's-
well,
Just
that's
so
another
the punters out there know, we talk about the 70s and all that
Yeah.
stuff really wasn't.
Well, it was
subscribe now.
It was just innovating, and it's gradually growing into
Yeah,
that sort of stuff.
yeah.
We,
Was
we
it
actually
designed?
we actually bought monitors.
I hated monitors.
Dave Martin monitors,
Yeah.
because we used to rehearse in this little place in Covent Garden, the
Down
old
the stairs.
Jubilee
Yes,
Studios.
yes.
Jubilee Studios.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was Dave Martin's place.
Yeah.
And we ended up buying some monitors from him. So we're carrying now cases with fucking monitors in, as well as all the rest of the shit.
Right.
So that's
You
go from one small truck.
We're now
Bigger
into
truck, not even a bigger
Luton's
truck.
old what were they, old Ford
3
Cabo,
tonners.
but the 3-tonners, they were
Yeah.
great. I used to love driving that.
Yeah, 3 tonners. Yeah,
You're bouncing around, you're fucking driving like a sports car.
you could throw them around.
yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
you?
you could.
But they used to
Yeah.
get a bit top heavy as well because you used to
Stack the stuff up high.
Really used to. That's it.
Well, I didn't stack too much with the
Well, it depends.
AWBs. With the,
No, but they never had much gear, did they?
No, but they take
They had
on
a
a
big
3-tonner.
PA. That's some
Yeah.
big PA cabinets.
They had the
They carried
hose
the PA as
monitor
well.
They
system.
were all big PA cabinets. Always went on the bottom.
Yeah, we had to weight them down. But
Yeah.
but you know, I mean, I remember Ronnie McIntyre walking with his guitar and he said, "I want to go home and practice." And I'm looking at my load and I'm going, and he's looking at me like, "Can I have your guitar, mate?" He goes, "Well, I want to take it home." I went, "Hang on." And I wedged it right between these two arms, so the whole truck was all one,
Right.
right? And I just shut it down, locked it.
Bolted together,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, and I just brought the shut it down, put the lock in on. He's going, "I want to rehearse tonight." I went, "See you tomorrow at the gig, mate."
Oh, God.
Yeah, fucking off we went.
Guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you got to put the musicians in their place. You know,
Yeah,
when,
well,
when the
yeah.
demands are like ridiculous, you know, it's all like,
Yeah, just fancy wanting his guitar.
Yeah, what do you think it was? His guitar player?
What is
Liberty.
yeah,
Cheeky bastard.
yeah, right. After the, you know,
But you know,
precise loading of the truck. You
But
know.
back to finish off the guitar stuff of breaking strings. My first gig with the Average Whites, and I was in Leicester, and I was petrified. I'm looking on stage, and Honey's like, so I run up, I went, "What?" He goes, "I broke my string." I went, "Okay." Ran back, got another guitar, gave it to him. He goes, "But I'd like you to change it because I want this guitar next." I went, "I don't know how to do that." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't know how to tune the guitar. I think I'm a fucking roadie."
I just came from Hartlepool.
Yeah. So I ran back and he finished this the gig. And next day he brought in a strobe tuner.
Right.
The good old strobe tuner. And I was like, "What is that?" It was just like magic for me. And he taught me how to tune guitars. It was
I
brilliant.
thought it was a little part of a television when I first saw it.
Yeah, you
Can't
would.
get the BBC on
I
this.
had one of them.
And they're all spinning around.
Yeah.
Because they used to like. They had a shed load of guitars and they used to like them re-strung
Yeah,
every
every
day.
day. Oh, God.
And
Jesus.
So we're only doing 3 chords.
Francis used to these top 3 strings were banjo, right?
Oh, right.
And then he used to use heavy gauge.
A hybrid,
bottom
that's
end.
a hybrid set.
Yeah. And Rick for his bottom E was off a bass guitar.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Right? You know, so it was funny tuning all
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
You know, lots. That's why they use so many guitars,
Right.
Because they all tune differently.
Slightly different,
Not that
yeah.
I ever, you know, I used to get them close.
Yeah, because it's really you need.
Well, yeah.
No,
But I
but
got a
it
lot of
is.
respect for Stay
Me
Scott.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know, everybody takes the piss out of them or 3-chord wonders. You try, as Francis used to say, you try playing 3 chords for 30 years.
Yeah.
But they use different.
be
They use
successful.
different rhythms on,
And different
you know.
tunings, and the
Yeah.
tunings were different. You
But a
know.
lot of their early albums were actually quite progressive and had songs in and stuff like that.
Songs?
Pictures of
Prog
Matchstick.
rock didn't have songs, did it?
Pictures of Matchstick
Great
Yeah.
song.
was
Still-
number 1 in America.
It's still popular today.
Yeah.
Ding 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 ding
Ding ding ding ding ding ding ding ding da da da.
Okay, so that's the
Record that.
guitars.
Record
That's the
that, release
guitar
it.
department. We
Put that one
all
out.
got taught how to string and do guitars.
I was never very good at it.
I was the drums, so next was the PA system.
Right.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Sound guy, right?
Yeah.
here.
Well, we in the early days we had that WEM. We bought a WEM system, which was
column system.
Yeah.
4 columns each side.
Yeah.
They got 4 speakers in,
Yeah.
but they're only 100 watts per column.
Right.
You know, now you get 1,000 watts out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there was 4 each side plus a tweeter rack, which is a thinner version of the columns, and the pièce de résistance was the audio master,
Yeah.
the mixer.
5 channel, 5, 6
I,
channels.
I think it must have had about 8 channels. I think. Yeah.
Gotta be 8. Gotta be.
Yeah, and they had the rotor
Yeah,
thingies.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we were doing a gig at the Marquee, and somebody knocked a fucking Coca-Cola off a shelf or something that was behind me and went right over the fucking mixer, and it was all going random. It just went random.
Yeah, it would.
But got through the gig somehow. I don't know how, but Yeah. Coca-Cola and the mixers don't mix.
They don't
And
make
of course, you're leapfrogging again because the mixer,
Yes.
luxury.
well.
Yeah, well, this is still in the early days. This is, doing
They still
the
had 'em.
marquee club,
But Van
The original club in Wardour Street. We're not talking about that piece of shit on Tottenham Court Road.
Yeah, no, we don't talk about shit.
We don't talk about that.
Well, I went from being like a backline roadie with Vinegar Joe, and they said, "Do you want to do this tour of America?" I didn't think I was going to go because Penn and Dave were there before me. I was like the head roadie, right? And I didn't think I was going to go to America with them.
Well, it was tight in those
And then they
days.
said, "Yeah, money, because the cost, and they said to me, "Oh yeah, do you want to come to America?" I went, "Yeah." And I said, "What you take that?" They said, "No, Penn's not coming, so you got to do out front sound."
Oh,
I
right.
said, "I've never fucking done out front sound."
Oh,
I
Jesus.
don't know fucking. And the first
But you
gig,
still went.
Tower Theatre,
Yeah.
which you used to load in from the front,
Right,
down
To
the
the hall.
middle aisle,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then up another ramp onto the stage. That's how you load
Is
it
that
in and out.
Philadelphia? No,
Yeah, the Tower
Yeah,
Theatre.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in Derby,
Yeah.
which is a suburb of Philly.
But you'd have a sound system though, not your own PA, wouldn't you? Going to the
so I
States.
turned up there, and it was all set up. I thought we'd done the back line. We set up the back line. We had a monster of a transformer to go from 240 down to 110.
Great.
This monster. It had 2 steel handles on the top, and it took 2 or 3 blokes to lift it.
Jesus.
But then they said, "Oh, go out front. We're going to do a quick sound check." Here you go. And I got out there, and there was sitting there with the PA with this board. I know what a Wemkin little.
Oh, yeah, this is going to the States. Yeah.
And the guys from Shawco were there.
Right.
Buford.
Buford and Robin.
Jones, no, it wasn't
was it
Magruder. I think Magruder might have been there doing the light. But
It's funny that we all encountered those same guys.
Buford and Morris.
Oh, Morris, yeah.
Who I worked with a lot over the years.
He had a nice moustache, Morris.
Buford did.
Yeah.
Buford.
Oh, he had the
always
big, yeah.
Yeah, we always had it. But, and I said, "I've not used anything like this before." They said, "Do you want us to do it?" And I went, "If you don't mind, I'll just give you some cues, all right? So I get used to
Sense
the
to
board."
me, yeah.
They went, "Yeah, not to worry." And so they just EQ'd everything up.
Yeah.
Right? They, "This is the fucking dogs." This is, yeah. All right, she's going to do it. She's done the feature here, so pump it
Yeah.
up. But Elke used to say to me every night, "Make sure I'm louder than Robert."
Yeah.
All is fair in love and
Now, Vinegar
rock.
Joe had a Martin PA, and it was all the bass bins,
Yeah.
and then the mid-range cluster, and then you got the fucking high-end
yeah.
tweeters, So that was the first real professional.
When Martin brought, because there was Wem, and
Right.
then Martin came in,
Yeah.
When I was with
I know when.
Vandergraaf, we didn't have a mixer. We just had 3 little Wem amps, and each thing had
Yeah.
2 channels,
Yeah.
and then maybe a third channel might have had reverb on it.
Yeah, and trying to
something.
balance them up.
So if you had more than 6,
3 different amps.
Yeah.
you got
Right.
a flute solo, you'd unplug the bass drum or something. Whatever you had in, you had to juggle the inputs. But there was no faders, there was no gain. It was
No, well,
just
that's
you plug it
really-
in,
yeah,
bass
yeah.
and treble, and
Yeah,
maybe you'd had a little bit of.
Because it was following on from the guitar amp thing, which is
Yeah.
like a self-end thing. You got
Yeah.
your own volume change.
Yeah.
So then that kind of transferred to PA in a small way, but then it progressed from there.
Could
Then the
put more
amps,
inputs.
then all the amps had nothing on them, no input or whatever, no
right, they
no
were
volumes,
just-
and that's when you used the mixer.
So, and then that linked into all the amps together.
Wilko thinks he invented the multi-cable.
Did he?
I did, yeah.
Well, you have a big shit one day, did you?
No, I fucking gaffer's tape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, gaffer tape all the cables together.
Yeah.
Well, that probably was the way it evolved.
That's where it came from.
So it,
I patented it.
Yeah, well, they're all out of date now, mate. They use little fucking tiny
I wouldn't know.
little cables now, little like.
Has that been
Connectors.
gone Bluetooth yet?
Yeah, it's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and
Yeah, I got out when MIDI. I got off equipment when MIDI came out because everybody wanted it.
Mini, or
MIDI, musical
Mickey Mouse.
instrument digital interface.
Yeah, but that's different again. That's with keyboards mainly,
I
isn't
know,
it?
but
Control.
that was it for me. That's it for me. I'm a
Yeah.
I
And
promoted
that was the
myself.
big question. Well, can you MIDI this up? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big fad. No one does it anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, that was a big fad.
I-
Yeah, can you
with
MIDI this
Christa
up?
Berg, I mean, like I said, we never got anything. I got hired, and I ended up setting up about 10 keyboards between 3 blokes. The guitarist had a keyboard, the keyboard player had 6 keyboards, Prophet 5, this, that, and I'm like, and the sound man would say, Granny, give us an arpeggio. I'd be like, I never learned a chord in my life. They expect me to do it. Bong, bong. But I was like, I'm setting stuff up and I don't know what I'm fucking doing. In the end, I had to.
Yeah, they went mad on that MIDI
I'm not up on it.
linking keyboards and stuff,
Linking keyboards,
triggering drum patterns with keyboard stuff and all
Because
that.
I was into being with a band. A band like the Average White Band, Vinegar Joe, they were my kind of band where you could identify with it a bit. Though the whole MIDI thing got a little too. I just didn't.
Yeah, I think
didn't do anything for
I think
me.
things are kind of like full circle now, where most bands, well, at our level or whatever, basically just have guitar amp, maybe some processing. A lot of them are into modelling and all that, and I fucking can't.
Modelling.
Yeah, not that type of modelling.
You mean like topless
I
models?
don't mind a model.
No, it's modelling guitar sounds and stuff. You want to sound like Brian May? Press that button.
gotcha.
And all that.
I don't know.
I fucking hate that.
The classic King Crimson tour, right? And I used to look after Robert Fripp, and he'd sit in his chair, and he had this kind of mixer. It wasn't a regular amplifier. It had been custom built for him, right? And he'd go, "Who do you want me to beat tonight, Mal?" I go, "Jimi Hendrix." He go, "I can do Jimmy. I can do Jimmy better than Jimmy." And he'd go, he'd be like, "Jimmy, just give me somebody else, man. Francis Rossi." Are you sure? Yeah, Francis Rossi. Go on. Do Francis Rossi better than Francis. He'd just tweak his little thing. He'd come up with the sound, and it was just like them.
It is just
was
like it, but it's not.
Robert was an amazing guitar player.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, but
So anyway,
so where are we now?
Well, let me see. I got confused there.
We've set up.
Oh, we set up. So now we got the sound set up.
I've got to do the sound check first, haven't I?
You took my line away.
So
Now we're going to do the sound check.
What's a sound check?
oh fuck.
Okay, the sound check is when a roadie or roadies goes on stage and starts testing the mics. They'll do a drum solo if they could play the drums or just hit them, a guitar thing, and the guy out front, Mr. Mark Emery, will be mixing the board and getting the...
Yeah, well, basically, you get someone to trigger the sound so that you can see the inputs and get everything nice and even, so it's not overloading and distorting and shit like that. And,
Didn't bother with that with Van de Graaff. But sorry,
but well, I'm talking about it's the present day as well, and then the sound check is actually getting everyone to play. You get the technical
levels.
You get the
Levels,
technical side
balances.
together, get the monitors set, and once the monitors are set, really you shouldn't have to touch them, and then the sound check. I mean, that's the most important part of the gig for me, because when we're actually doing the gig, all that groundwork is done, and then make sure
Very
everything.
little changes.
Very little changes, just so makes it.
until
So.
you get the opening act comes on, and that's
I'd hate bloody support bands.
You've got to change everything.
Yeah, but with digital mixers, they tend to save the thing and then bring it back up. But so we're doing the gig now, aren't we?
Well, no, then later on
Then we get up some of the
I'll go for a meal. Yeah.
Later on, when we turned into tour managers, we would turn up with the band
For the sound check.
for the sound check.
Right.
So the roadies are all set with the equipment. So now the band goes on stage and they'll do about an hour, 45 minutes. doing
Wanking
sound
about,
check. Wanking, whatever you want to call it. And then we would take them back to the hotel, if we had a hotel. Or we just have some, sandwich.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
when are we going right back to when we rolled up in a transit?
Yeah,
Or
back
are we
in the 70s, yeah. Well, 90%
I don't remember
of us-
having hotels and go.
No, that's what I'm saying. If there was a hotel.
Nip down the road, get a bag of chips, maybe.
Yeah. Or if the promoter would give you a sarnie in a pint.
God, you work for good promoters, man.
You got a band like
Lucky if we get that now.
the average white band had like 2 bass setups, 3 guitar setups, keyboards and saxophones and drums. So you got like, let's just do the drums, and you go kick drum, boom, boom, and then Olnie's like, Ollie, can you stop doing the guitar? And then the saxophone plays. You could never get them to stop and just test the one.
Can
thing.
you all shut up? I'm trying to hear the bass. You know?
They're all,
It's still the same now.
they're all the same.
They're still the
All
fucking same.
They always were. Everybody
Once the
was
guitarist
great,
get on stage,
you
it's
know.
whittle.
That's why these days most guitar techs, keyboard techs, drum techs can all play.
Yeah.
So they can proper do
Get all that
proper
shit
sound
out of the
check
way before
out
the
way.
band gets there.
So the band can walk in and literally sit down and go, right,
Piss
1,
about.
2, 3, 4, and launch into a tune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience is though that they actually come earlier than that and then start coming on stage before you're ready.
Right,
Give us a minute, lads. Can you give us a minute?
We still no.
Yeah.
Where do you want us to go? Go to the pub. Okay. Phew. You know.
Yeah. Or they'd want to tweak something, you know. Oh, I want to work on this.
You get all set up there. So, I just bought this today, and another pedal comes in.
Yeah.
Friggin' pedal. Yeah. But
So we've done the gig.
well,
Well, hang on. Let's,
no, we haven't.
No, we
sound
haven't
check.
done the gig.
no, we just got the sound check.
Oh
mate.
right, okay,
I
mate.
hope nobody out there is going to follow this as how you actually do it.
So it doesn't really happen.
We are trying to stay in the 1970s, early 70s.
Early 70s.
But we keep bouncing back into the present day. So, but
Listen,
But yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, I'm talking about me. I was a drum tech, and then I started doing the back line. And then Bruce McCaskill would go, hey, you're getting pretty good at this. Set the sound system up. And the average white band sound system was the Who's monitor system.
was it?
Yeah. So I've got all the cables, and I'm going, one goes into one. Fucking technology, Wilkie. Let's go.
Blue plug goes into blue
Yeah.
socket. Hey!
Yeah, you know, and it's just learning the process and doing what you did. And that was the introduction of, you know, for me, what I'm talking about me, of how to be a roadie. You know, the tour management came later, but
I mean, but I got a gig with Stackridge, you know, one of these quirky British bands, and they had a monitor system. So Pete Donovan says,
Yeah.
I've got a gig for you. So I showed up, not knowing what I was going to do. You know,
Right.
This was the days you just turn up. And he goes, you've done monitors, haven't you? I go, oh. Next thing you know, I'm setting up monitors.
Yeah.
All colour-coded, it was all very logical. But you had to go.
Yeah, you had to
And
do it.
You did the best you could.
Yeah.
They were prepared to...
you're
tolerate
first
it.
in the line of fire with monitors. You know.
Yeah.
I've done them a couple of times for Wishbone, and they had Wim monitors at the sizes.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that probably would have been the old up front of house one that we put
Yeah.
on the stage.
Recycled.
And I remember doing it. Fucking Ted hated me. I think Ted wanted to kill me when I was doing monitors.
Yeah, well, this is it. You're front of the line because that's what they can hear. And if they're not, if they're having a bit of a bad day and all being bitchy and all that, you're the
They could take it out.
oh
now.
yeah, fuck you,
Oh, yeah.
fucking throw a stick at you or something.
Fucking Ted used to scream at me.
And Ted's a meek and mild kind of
I know,
guy.
Good as gold when he
Wouldn't
came.
sh-
Good as gold when he came off stage.
Yeah.
You know, but on
and
the
stressed
stage,
him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
but,
style it
yeah.
out, Ted. Style it out, mate. Just style it out.
I mean, just to go on about the loading in stuff, when we moved up to a sort of theatre level,
Right.
you know, Newcastle City Hall and all that, then you had the multi cables that you invented,
Yeah.
and they'd be like, you know, you'd have to roll it out up the fucking aisles,
Yeah.
and then the mixers would be sort of perched between 2 or 3 rows of seats, yeah.
Balanced.
And it's fucking nightmare, and wrapping those bloody multi-coils up was like,
They used to call me Mr. Gaffer.
yeah.
The amount of gaffers tape we used.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce came
Would
in.
have been without gaffer tape.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Bruce McCaskill came to a gig once, and he's walking on. He's going, "The fuck you doing?" I didn't want him to walk on the cables, Bruce. I was going over the doors.
Well, yeah.
You know, I was just like, and he's going,
Well,
"Good job."
You're
but,
supposed to.
do you know how much
this
fucking
t-
gaffer
these
tape
days you
costs?
couldn't
Yeah.
across the floor because trip acid.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
You can't use
So-
those cable run things.
Nah, well, we never used them.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
No,
We
always
do now, but back
did
then,
that.
they always run all the microphone cables around and to the back, never across the stage.
Yeah.
Never
across.
never across that
We
way.
always
Right.
went
Otherwise, you do have trip hazards all over the place. Or if they get too long, it's like a fucking washing line.
Yeah.
The washing line.
Speaking of which,
By the way, you
Old
can
Rowdies never die.
Rock and Roll Rowdies are selling these beautiful T-shirts from the day.
Well, they
gone
are
by.
they're bloody antiques. Those
These are
t-shirts.
These are worth a
vintage
lot of money.
t-shirts. This is from Wishbone Ash,
That's got to be the first album. isn't it?
76. 1976.
Oh, that's quite late.
this tour.
That is, yeah, that's modern.
This one's round about the same time.
Average
with
White Band.
Average White Band. And on the end one, that's a Genesis from 1982.
It's a double-sided. Isn't it?
Yeah, Genesis
It's got
on the
Genesis
other
on the other
side.
side. Can't change it.
1982.
Old roadies never die. They just end up at the marquee.
And the underwear
And that's not the right
is from
market.
1971 from Mark Emery.
yeah,
They're not washed. They're in the laundry basket.
Yeah, they just came from Germany, those.
Fresh from Germany.
Yeah,
so we've done a
right.
sound check,
Right.
and then
We must be. getting
Yeah,
that
then,
gig.
then the band does the gig. We don't really want to talk about that.
it's like, it just gets in the way of everything.
So it was mainly clubs and
Right.
pubs.
There was no
that we were-
catering.
Back in the day, yeah.
That we're dealing with. So it's like you're at a pub and it's down, it's breakdown. My thing was the mic, get all the mics
You
unplugged.
grabbed off all the mics.
Yeah.
straight
We're after
away.
the gig now,
Before
aren't we?
Yeah,
anybody-
we're now
before
breaking
anybody
down.
nicked them.
Oh,
Yeah.
the applause has died down.
The
Oh,
applause
yeah.
is the band's
Or the
off
booing.
stage. Our gig next.
Well,
was
apart from the joints at the side of the stage, which were an important thing.
them
yeah.
two.
Never.
No, I never smoked that shit.
Never.
No,
while I
no,
was
not
working.
you. Francis, right? You were telling me about States Cover
Francis Rossi.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, Ted used to come over. The very last number, if it the Uncle Phoenix, he'd come over and go, and have a quick talk and then go back.
I remember with another drummer who we know quite well.
Name no
I used to
names.
give him a can of Coke on stage, right? With and it was concave in the bottom of the Coke can, and there was a bit of
How's your
substance,
father?
bit of substance in that. And he would look like he was drinking a Coca-Cola.
That's all right. Very good disguise.
So inventive. Yeah, I
You
love
know,
it.
this is multitasking.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very
Multitasking.
creative.
All right, so,
So let's get out. So we've got to get out. So it was a system of
Best
how
of
you unloaded to get it loaded. So we'd come out and go, okay, as Mal mentioned earlier, left stage, right stage, but basically get it out there. And it was in the pubs. I remember nutting people on the
Well, by then you're half cut, you're drunk, and you're
Yeah.
arguing with everybody, and
Yeah,
knocking
you
things
know,
over.
all in the way.
They don't want to
They're all
move.
trying to,
You
they
know.
don't want to move. You're trying to wheel or drag equipment through
Right.
them. Nobody wants to get out your way, and you get really.
No,
it's always the worst part of the night.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
get out is the worst part. It's like, you're sort of like pumped up, maybe had a good time during the show,
Like you say-
and then it's like, oh, fuck, I've got to go
Here we
and
go.
drag that lot
My
out.
last
Right.
tour on the Tools was with Gabriel, and we used to make a feature of the loadout. You know, it was a big.
Right.
You
A performance in itself.
Yeah, we used to, take pride in that look, getting it. And then we'd be ready. Then you could do anything, you know.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah, it's
we're
just
ready.
you're just in a
Get
hurry
on
to
the
get to the
Get
club
on-
or whatever.
Get on the bus.
Get on the bus, drink a few beers,
Get on the bus, Gus.
eat a pizza. Yeah.
luxury.
Yeah.
You know, but we
I mean, that was.
we
Then
jumped
go
a bit
downtown
there,
and
but
get
it's-
I
arrested.
think
Yeah.
the last tour I done with Peter was 82, 83. So.
But in the UK, I seem to remember you used to you'd go out after we
a lot
after we
of the time,
finished
yeah,
the gig.
Early gig in the 70s.
If we had a hotel,
Especially places like Germany, they'd say, "Where do you want to go eat?" We'd go, "Oh, we don't want German food." Yeah.
You don't eat pig?
And they'd take us to, that was my first experience of eating Greek food, although it wasn't Greek food, it was Turkish food.
Turkish, yeah, guest workers,
Yeah.
full of them.
In Germany, it was
in Germany.
Turkish food. And I loved it,
Yeah.
we used to eat a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I do like bratwurst and bockwurst,
Yeah.
currywurst.
I was thinking more about
jam and bread.
little private bars, like illegal private bars.
Those too.
Those after because it used to go
hours,
like
yes.
11 o'clock. The bars are closed,
Right.
and then you'd find someone to go. But I think they call it house parties or something. Back in the day, I went to a couple of them. Oh, what was his name? Ricky. He was Scottish guy.
Lawrence.
Ricky
Ricky
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
The nose.
With the nose.
The smashed nose.
yeah.
He died, you know.
Did he?
Yeah,
Oh.
under
He's a
strange
lovely guy.
circumstances at a hotel on tour.
Really.
Yeah.
wow.
I'm not, don't know what it was.
Alright.
No.
Yeah,
Well, we
Ricky
went to one of
Lawrence.
those places one night, and he ended up falling down the steps, and the next morning his nose is all greased up and shit. It's like,
His nose was smashed to begin
He had
with.
a nose that went in 4 directions anyway.
bless him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, bless him. Rest in peace, mate.
Yeah.
He was the guy that I did a very brief thing with Bad Company, and he was the tour manager, and he got in touch with me. Something had happened, and he said, "Could I just come out and take it over?" He's like, he'd already set it all up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the last time I saw him. And, something happened to him.
A shame.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
shame.
so it is a shame. Yeah.
So
It was-
it
it
didn't.
was full of
Not every after gig party ended up like that, but
Right, right.
Abbey
You
Right
know.
Band it was every night.
but yeah. And then there was the horrible thing about having to drive
Whoop,
back,
sorry.
drive back from.
I'm talking about the crew.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about the crew.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying
Or,
something?
yeah, or driving back from the Potteries or something back down to London, and they didn't have the M6 there, and you'd be on the A38 and the fog at 3 in the morning, barely able to see the line in front of you. This is way before you could get to the, the Blue Boar or
Blue
something.
Boar.
East Anglia was the worst for fog.
Yeah, for-
Well, Britain, wherever. I just remember specifically in the Midlands there, it was, and then you're getting back fucking 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's
You got to be up by 10.
oh,
Do the next
do
gig.
the next
and then
gig
drive somewhere else.
to Wales or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you loved it.
We were warriors. We
Yeah,
were
yeah.
We are the warriors.
The movie. They named the movie after us, guys. Warriors.
I know. We complain about it, but we loved it.
I loved it. I have
But, I
diaries.
mean, what was better? You know,
Yeah.
what was better when you were 21 years old? You were
right.
travelling round,
Getting paid.
getting paid, and
A lot of
for
money.
doing something you absolutely loved. You were in the music business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You loved it. We just all loved it, and that's why we all done
right.
it.
Yeah.
And we're
So,
still alive to talk about it.
I mean, I got this diary.
still love it.
I kept
Yeah.
my diary, and I remember I was with Vandergraaf again, and on the last night of the tour, I fell down a flight of stairs, and I could hardly walk, and I had to drive the truck for some reason. So I'm driving the truck with bruised ankles, I could hardly move, get off the ferry, the whole process of getting back from Europe into England with the ferry and the customs and the drive back to London. I got back, you had a gig. And you went, oh, we're just going up to Birmingham. I parked my truck and jumped in yours and went to Birmingham with 2 broken ankles.
Brilliant.
Shit-faced. This is what we did.
That's what we did.
Yeah,
We
to
all
go.
helped each other out,
Yeah.
I remember you've got a picture somewhere of you sitting on the edge of a fountain in Italy with your ankle in the water because it was all
Oh,
swollen
yeah.
up.
I don't remember the picture, but yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
I've seen a picture of you.
I fell downstairs
Must be-
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
it, guys. I mean, the next story is another story. So
That's it.
that's
We'll do it.
basically what happened. You got turned up, you did this, that, and the other. Got the band on stage.
When you've been on the road for a few weeks and then you're sharing a room in a hotel, some of the fucking foot fungi comes out.
We should put on the video a little disclaimer, a little banner. That, in no way should you attempt to do this yourself. Like, do not try this at home. Do not do a gig.
You become addicted and be stuck with it for the rest of your life.
This is how we stumbled across. But our hearts were in the right place, and we did the best we could. And hopefully the bands understood that they could go on and be confident they could do a show. And somehow or other we pulled it out.
We pulled it out.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
pulled it off.
Great fun.
It was rough and ready. Everything was a bit rough and ready in those days.
Yeah.
It got a lot slicker. Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there was a development on us, but there's also a development on equipment, getting better.
it was-
Technology.
Technology was getting better.
Before rock bands and stuff like that, it was all like orchestras and stuff like that.
Orchestras and skiffle,
Or
you know.
skiffle with
So they didn't have amplifiers at all.
Something happened about 1967, 68, where they went from being groups, ding-a-ling-a-ling, to being bands.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
right.
equipment went with it. And we weren't any of the geniuses behind the scenes who were creating it all, but we were part of it
It's
somehow.
part of
We
it.
got it to work
Yeah.
every day. Other guys were inventing stuff.
And it was the start of the rock era.
It was great.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And we're all very
The
pleased
modern
to.
rock era.
Yeah.
Billy Ellie and the Comets and
That's
things like
rock.
That was pre us.
That's pre us.
But
That was still old hat.
Well,
really.
look what we were watching last night, Freddie and the Dreamers.
Freddie and the Dreamers.
Yeah, well, that was a bit
It was,
twee.
it was
yeah.
no, but it was like
But that was
a
the-
TV show.
That was the Mercy
It was-
piece.
It was
we were watching
painful.
these TV
It
shows,
was
and
painful.
it was from the 60s. music from
That
the
60s channel, I've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the production on those, honestly,
Shandello.
those producers needed whipping.
Well,
They probably were getting whipped.
Yeah, but
because their idea, their concept
Yeah.
of how these music should be presented to the public was just
Yeah, but
there was no-
It was only a few years later, when I went down and saw Jethro Tull at the what's the name of the park down in Plymouth, and then
Van Dyke?
the Van Dyke, indeed,
Yeah.
and the Torquay Town Hall started bringing in bands like Cream, Fleetwood Mac.
Then you started getting a different presentation.
Yeah, then you're getting that was the stuff, the John Mayer and the Blues Breakers and all that. That's when you're talking rock and blues coming alive, and I was about 15 then. But then it's gradually, they were travelling with the some of the old school roadies that was with them.
Oh, yeah.
Were like our predecessors.
yeah.
And then
Let's name a few. Eric Barrett, Chris Adamson,
Baz,
Lemmy. Of course, Lemmy was Dinky Dawson.
Yeah.
Chris Adamson, Eric Barrett again. Bruce
There's a
McCaskill.
bloke called Fred.
yeah.
Can't remember his last name. Big bloke. Yeah, there was a whole crew.
I can get the faces, but I can't all the names.
Mal Evans.
Mal Evans.
Well, when me and Mal came down to
Mal
London.
was inducted in the Hall of Fame when the Beatles were.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Well, there you go.
Stu was with the Stones.
Yeah.
So I can imagine like musicians had their musical heroes and they would get to meet them and how nervous they were. So when me and Mal first moved to London, we were really fledgling and just about knew the basics. And we did a gig all the way down in Exeter.
Yeah.
And we were the opening and closing band.
It was an all-nighter.
It was the Moody Blues, and they had a top-notch crew, and we were like, fucking bow into them.
Yeah.
And Moody Blues and
Story.
Orange Bicycle or somebody. So we did the opening set, and then we got shit-faced because we had no control, free drinks.
No.
And I remember passing out,
You still
up.
have no control.
Well, that's right. But we were sort of trying to keep up with it. We were thinking these are real roadies. These were seasoned roadies, and we were just like nervous. I ended up puking up, passed out,
Yeah, so-
all the usual.
So we weren't the first, but we were there in the early 70s. And
We were looking up to them, weren't we? We were like, these are real roadies. These
Yeah.
guys are on tour,
yeah, but
traveling.
they actually weren't.
We
They
got
didn't. Know, they didn't. We had more technical side to us once we got going than they ever
We
had.
caught up with them a bit.
This is to finish, done.
Right.
Also, Baz Ward,
That's right.
Rest in
Yeah.
peace.
rest in peace, my old friend.
Yeah, a lot of these guys have recently passed away over
Yeah.
the last
This is
5
why
years.
we're
or
doing
so.
this, to get something down
Before
some
we
of the
all-
spirit of the times and
before
mention
we all-
our pals.
Yeah, before he runs me over again.
Yeah, last night you ran him over. Wilko
Didn't quite
can't take
work.
the heat off.
He's here to,
Well,
Intentionally.
to tell the story.
Yeah, he said, I don't want anybody showing him on it. Boom, take that, you bastard.
Oh, that's a
Thank
wrap.
you, Rock and Roll Rowdies.
On
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Rowdies.
Yes.
On Facebook.
And on YouTube.